Hi, I'm Annie. So I was looking for an objective personality class that I saw a few years ago and I couldn't find it, but it was about patterns of fear and annoyance clustering around certain types. So it was like stuff that people are afraid of. Some people are afraid of spiders, some people aren't. Some people are really annoyed by the sound of loud chewing and some people aren't. We just all have different little fears. I was thinking about that because I have a really weird fear. I was kind of contrasting that with my partner's fear. And this is so random. I am afraid of animal traps and landmines, and it makes absolutely no sense because I've never been in a situation where landmines were a threat or animal traps. It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm talking about being afraid of animal traps in my own neighborhood. I live in a medium-sized town, just like a normal neighborhood with sidewalks, and I'm afraid of animal traps. And so this comes up really strong for me in the fall when the leaves are, covered over the sidewalk and I'm going on my morning walk and kind of kicking my feet through. I'm afraid that I'm going to kick my foot into an animal trap. And that really, really, really doesn't make sense. I could understand if I was walking through the woods or something in an area where people were not responsible because, this happens. Sometimes someone steps right in an animal trap and their leg gets fucked. So that's weird. The landmines thing, that's also very weird. I was walking today just in my neighborhood and in the sidewalk there was a nail sort of driven down into the sidewalk with a little pink marker on it, like the locating people were locating something, or I don't know why sidewalks have these pins in them sometimes, but I see those and I will not step on it because I feel like if I step on it, it's gonna explode. And then another time I was pulling into my alley, it's a paved alley, and there was a squash, it probably fell off of the squash plant in someone's back garden and rolled into the middle of the alley. It was just a yellow squash. I was afraid that if I run over it, it's gonna explode because maybe some hooligans or something put explosives in it and it's a little prank, a trick thing that when you run over the squash, it explodes. Why would that's just so random. So anyway, those are really observery kind of fears that don't make a whole lot of sense because I've never lived in a war zone. So I don't know why I would be afraid of landmines and animal traps. It just doesn't make sense. But I was contrasting that with my partner. So my type is glass lizard ENFP, play last. And my partner, I think, is ISTP. He's definitely a decider. His fear is that he will be wrongly imprisoned. He will be accused of a crime that he did not commit, and it'll just be a big confusion and mix-up. And that sort of strikes me as more of a decidery thing because it's judgment from the tribe about, his identity or his truth or something like that. And then in terms of things that we're annoyed by, he is really annoyed by the sound of loud chewing. And I think that maybe clusters around SE, either savior or demon, because I watched this objective personality video, but maybe a year or two ago, but I can't find it anywhere. The sound of loud chewing bothers him and I literally don't notice it. I mean, I'm sure that people chew loudly sometimes, but it just doesn't register. That doesn't bother me. I don't notice it, but I am annoyed by sounds. Being audio, I am really sensitive to sounds, and my partner, I believe, is double feminine. What gets me is the sound of Harleys. I know you're supposed to like that or whatever, but it's just so abrasive and jarring. Also, when my neighbor over here in the side garden does their lawn, it's just the sound of lawnmowers. I just don't like it. It really drives me crazy because they let their grass get too long and it chokes the mower. And so they're mowing, the mower chokes and stops, and they have to figure all that shit out, and then they start it again. So it's just this start, stop, start, stop. And I'm dude, get on a fucking schedule. And also they're doing it themselves at random times. And I wish I just knew when it was going to be. This is kind of crazy and it's an unrealistic expectation on my part, but I really like it when people actually have lawn care and it's on a schedule because then I know when it's going going to be. That's, an unrealistic expectation of control on my part because it's none of my business. I have a lot of expectations about the sensory world that it will behave in a predictable manner, and it just doesn't. And also jets, like really loud, low-flying jets. I don't appreciate that at all. I don't see the point. We had the World Games here in Eugene, Oregon a few weeks ago, July 15th to be exact, because it was my partner's birthday, so I remember the date. But July 15th was like the first opening ceremony day of these World Games, and Hayward Field is like really close to our house where we live. And I was inside. All of a sudden there was like this loud roaring noise, and it was lasting a long time, and I totally freaked out. Like my heart rate went up to like 180. I could, look at that retrospectively from my watch that was measuring my heart rate. My heart rate went up to 180 and it got kind of stuck there, and I was totally panicked. So my partner was in the backyard when that happened, and then I was inside the house, and I just was in total panic and ran out. And I was thinking the Russians were coming to get us, which is totally irrational because like that just wouldn't happen. Like Russians would not attack Eugene, Oregon. It doesn't make any sense. Or I thought that it was aliens, and I was totally panicked. Like I thought it was like end of the world, and this was so loud. And I ran outside and caught like just the tail end of it. And my partner also was a little bit alarmed or excited or whatever, and he ran over to the edge of the fence to see. And so the jets for this opening ceremony, they had flown over Hayward Field, and then they went in our neighborhood and circled kind of like right around our neighborhood, and then right sort of above our house went straight up. And it was the loudest thing that I've ever heard. I was pissed because I didn't know this was going to happen. I'm sure it was published somewhere in the news. It was terrifying. And my partner thought it was exciting. And also it was his birthday. So he knew that it was jets. I mean, he kind of like, I don't know, was just familiar. It was those Top Gun things, like the really loud ones. I don't know what they're called. But he was excited because he thought it was for his birthday. He was having like his birthday cocktail out in the garden. It was like, I don't know, 4:30 or 5 p.m. And he thought it was a special show just for him. And I was meanwhile like just having a panic attack. So yeah, that was fun. They did it the next day, but by that time I knew they were going to because I was aware and I knew what time they were going to do it. So I was prepared, and it wasn't as panicky for me because I knew it was coming. And then also they didn't do the loop and the straight up that time. They just drove by because I have a feeling that people complained. I mean, that will kill you. My partner was telling me that he grew up in LA. Every time there's an earthquake, whether it's like minor or major or whatever, a certain number of people die from heart attacks because it scares the crap out of them. And we have this rehab facility over here in our neighborhood just a block away where older people live, like because they're really elderly and they can't live at home. Or if you get a surgery and you go there for rehab because you can't live at home for a few weeks or so. I have a feeling like maybe they complained about it and maybe that's why it wasn't as dramatic the next day. But yeah, I just didn't appreciate it. See, I'm ranting about this. I wasn't even planning on talking about that. It was only like since I started talking, I remembered about the jets. Anyway, loud noises, loud abrasive noises is what annoys me. And for him, it's like the sound of chewing, which I never even notice. I'm afraid of snakes, but I'm not at all afraid of spiders. And I grew up in the South in Texas and spent time in Arkansas. Those are both places where both snakes and spiders are dangerous. But for some reason, I'm just not afraid of spiders. Yeah, it's just interesting that my partner's fears are really decidery social kind of fears. And also fears about what people think about him, people's perception of him. I don't really care. I mean, for one thing, he overestimates what people might think about him. He thinks that people are potentially judging him when probably like they can't be bothered to judge him as much as he imagines they might be. And like for me, I know that people are judging me, of course. People are judging me, people are judging him. That's what people do. If you're public in any way, if you have a YouTube channel, if you're on Facebook or any social media or in the public eye, some people are not going to like you. But I feel like I really have that in perspective. I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. Some people don't like me. I'm not exaggerating it it, and also I don't really care because it's normal. There's always going to be a certain number of people that like you and a certain number of people that don't like you. That's perfectly normal. I don't imagine that people hate me or are gossiping about me because why would they bother? You know, I feel like I have like a really realistic picture of what's happening out there in terms of people's perception of me. But for my partner, it's really exaggerated. He imagines that people are judging him harshly when they aren't. And I think he takes it to heart a little bit more. I mean, not like he needs them to like him for his self-esteem at all. It's just something about truth or TI or something. He is secure in terms of his self-esteem, but it still would bother him if people thought something, believed something about him that wasn't true. I guess that's what I'm saying. So that's why I'm saying it feels like it's tied to TI because it's like a truth thing. Like he wants to be perceived accurately. I don't know. And we can't really control that. Like I don't think people always perceive me accurately. It's just how it is. Yeah, that's just what I was thinking about because I know that fall is coming and there's going to be leaves on the sidewalk. And so it's that time of year where I'm going to start to be afraid of animal traps as I kick my feet through the leaves on my morning walk. So interesting how that can cluster around certain types. Okay, have a good weekend. Bye.